you. So lovely to see so many people here at the show. Thank you for coming for this important program. Thank you for being with us at Pat Jacob Synagogue. I'm not going to say much. I would like to introduce Bassem, Palestinian from Jericho, came all the way here. Human rights activist, political analyst, and I'm going to let Bassem tell you the rest, right?
Thank you. Thank you, Yannick. Good evening to everyone and shalom. I want first of all to thank the organizers and to thank the synagogue for hosting this event, and of course to thank each of you for coming and joining us. Unfortunately, things totally upside down right now in the relationship between the Israelis and the Palestinians. The tense that I am feeling right now, I never ever felt it since probably 1967. And I think that what's happened on the October 7th almost pushed the Israeli-Palestinian conflict backward at least for 50 years. Now we need 50 years to rehabilitate the relationship between the two people. So it's a big loss. In the meantime, I think that the Hamas almost proves to the international community on the October 7th that they are a genocidal movement, that they are a brutal, barbaric terrorist organization. I personally used to say that since 17 years ago, since the Hamas occupied the Gaza Strip in 2007. But looks like that the international community, unfortunately, became a part of the conflict rather than a part of the solution. This is one of the major problems of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We used to say that the Hamas is using his own people as a human shield. We used to say that while Israel is using its rockets to protect its people, the Hamas using his people to protect his rockets. What the Hamas really provided in the past 17 years to the Gazan people, they provided misery, poverty, and destruction under the eyes of the international community. And nobody is care. I have a friend called Yusuf, living in the north of the Gaza Strip in a city called Beit Lahia. Yusuf is a father of 6 children. Used to work in a bakery in the Gaza city. 12 hours a day work for $2.50. 10 Israeli shekels. One day he called me and he said, Bassem, do you know what's happened yesterday night? I said, really not. What's happened, Yusuf? He said 4 people came to my house in the evening and they told me that they are going to build a tunnel under my house. But they told me that it's not going to be for free. They are going to pay me $50 a month. I said, then what was your answer, Yusuf? He said, my answer was, please try to build 4 tunnels in turn to give me $200 a month. Look how they are using the poverty of their own people, not only using them as a human shield. So the people in the north of Gaza knows very well that they are living above a huge stores of gunpowder. And when Israel called the people in the north to flee to the south, Israel knows what is going on under the ground. But when Israel called people to flee, the Hamas police came to the cities in the north, start pushing people back to their homes. Because Hamas want to prevent his tunnels and his terrorists who are hiding in those tunnels. And while the Hamas push the people back to their homes, that's probably the main reason why the number of the killed people in the north was very high. On the other side, the Hamas succeed to build in the past 17 years 700 kilometers square of tunnels. But in the meantime, the Hamas never ever tried to build one shelter to his people. And when you are asking the Hamas leaders, where are the shelters for the people? What was the answer of the Hamas? That the responsibility of the people in Gaza is on the United Nations and the Israeli occupation. Hamas want Israel to build shelters to the Gazan people. So whom you are representing? On behalf of whom you are talking? I don't think that the Hamas really represent the Palestinians. I think that the Hamas became so clear right now that they are an Iranian agents and Qataris traitors. It's very clear to everyone now. This fact, no one can hide it. And Hamas trying to implement the Iranian agenda rather than the Palestinian agenda. And the Iranian agenda is how to destroy Israel and how to continue disturbing the internal security of the state of Israel. This is the Iranian agenda. And that's exactly what the Hamas doing. That's exactly what Hezbollah doing. That's exactly what the Houthis in Yemen doing. That's exactly what is the agents of Iran in Syria and in Iraq are doing. So it's a very difficult situation right now. And I don't believe that the international community can play an important role here in what is going on in the Gaza Strip. The feeling of the Gazan people right now that this war in Gaza almost coordinated with some Arab countries. Because some Arab countries, like Saudi as an example, like United Arab Emirates as an example, reached a point that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict will never ever be solved while the Hamas is still ruling Gaza. So it's a good opportunity right now that Israel is hitting them. Israel is looking to this war as the second war of independence. And this is why Israel will never stop it. So if there is a kind of support from the Arab countries, I think that that's probably will empower Israel more and more to continue with this war. Nobody is calling to stop the war except the Hamas, by the way. Even the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, never asked to stop the war. Looks like that most of the countries around the world looking to this war as a legitimate war. While everybody is calling to improve the humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip. But the people in the Gaza Strip are totally against the humanitarian aid. Why they are against? Because they never benefited from it. The humanitarian aid is going to the stores of the Hamas and sold on the next day in the black market. So the Hamas does not care. They are much more care about their own terrorists who are hiding themselves behind the civilians. The United Nations, in my opinion, morally is bankrupt. And they lost their legitimacy and their presence. We heard recently about the United Nations employees who participated in the genocide of the October 7th. Right now, UNRWA admitted that 12 employees has been involved. But I assure every one of you that they were over than 100. And which employees we are talking about? We are not talking about employees who are working in the stationery and cleaning the refugee camps. We are talking about teachers who used to teach mathematics and English language. This is the employees that we are talking about. This is the employees who used to teach our children how to commit a suicide. These are the employees who are trying to spread out violence and hatred among the Palestinian children in the schools. So I hope that the day after the war, the first thing is how to chase UNRWA from Gaza. This is one of the most important issues. I think that UNRWA, trying to keep the Palestinian refugees in the refugee camps as hostages. Since 1948 until today, what the Palestinian refugees really benefited from UNRWA? Zero. Somebody once asked me why UNRWA is not solving the issue of the Palestinian refugees. I said, for a very simple reason. If they will solve the issue of the refugees, then the 30,000 employees of UNRWA will become jobless and refugees. So these people trying much more to defend and to protect their own income. $1.6 billion a year, the budget of UNRWA, which is 60% of that budget is going for salaries. The spokesperson of UNRWA in the West Bank and Gaza, he is living on the beach in Tel Aviv, in a villa. And what is his salary? $15,000 a month. What the Palestinian refugees really benefiting from such rubbish spokesperson? But the one who should have to be blamed on that is the international community, who are donating such a huge amount of money every year, especially the United States. The United States donating $300 million a year to UNRWA. Now we hear that after the involvement of the employees in the attack, they stop or they freeze or they suspend. But I am not quite sure. We don't know what's going on under the table here. This is the problem. The people in Gaza will continue to suffer till the end of this war. There is no other chance. The people in Gaza should have to wake up and to start protecting themselves from such terrorist organization. We saw recently some small demonstrations here and there calling to release the hostages because they want to go back homes. But Hamas is not care what those people are calling for. Hamas still saying that we are ready to continue this war till the last Gazan person in Gaza. Till the last one. Hamas is ready to continue. This means that Hamas is not going to give up here. On the first deal of the hostages, the head of the Hamas from his 6-star hotel in Doha, in Qatar, made a speech. And what he called it? He called it the speech of victory. Listen well to the speech of victory. Among the others, he said that the enemy comes down to our terms. But he never tells us what are the terms. How you can call it victory while tens of people has been killed, tens of people has been injured, over than 67% of the Gaza Strip almost destroyed. So if our victories are going to be like that, imagine how our defeat is going to be. This is the problem. And nobody trying even to put any kind of pressure on the Hamas. I don't believe that President Biden couldn't make one telephone call to the Prince of Qatar saying you have 24 hours to release all the hostages. He can do that. But looks like that Biden wants something before that from Netanyahu. He wants Netanyahu to stop the war. And this is one of the major problems right now, that the international community is not really putting any kind of pressure on the releasing of the hostages. And I'm asking myself as a Palestinian, what we the Palestinians really benefiting from holding 136 hostages by the Hamas in the tunnels? What we are really benefiting? I think that that's bringing more and more misery and destruction to the Palestinians. But while the international community trying to keep silent on what's going on, in my opinion, the Gazan people will continue paying the price for that. Now everybody is talking about the day after the war. What will happen after the war? So many political scenarios right now. Israel said that the security will continue being in our hands. The American administration said that Gaza must have to be given back to the corrupt Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. Some international community countries said we have to find out some humanitarian organizations to rule the Gaza Strip. I don't think that any of them will work. And I came in an idea a month ago, and I said that it is the moment right now for the Palestinians to rule themselves by themselves. We don't want authorities, we don't want governments, we don't want president, we don't want anything. Gaza Strip is divided to 5 different districts. 67 of the populations in Gaza are Bedouin. In 1948, these people came to Gaza from the south of Israel, from Beersheba, from Rahat, from all of these places. So originally, these people are Bedouins. And we know people probably respecting the head of the tribe much more than they are respecting any government or any court or any police. Let us give Gaza to the tribes, to its own people. Let us give them the chance to rule themselves by themselves, at least for 5 years. After 5 years, we can evaluate the situation. Maybe a charismatic Palestinian leader will be found, and then probably you can call for elections, and then to immediately get into the negotiations with the Israelis. This is the only solution that I can see right now, which might be very effective for the Gazan people and for Israel. And I am quite sure if Israel will provide an economic prosperity to those tribes are able to provide a good security for Israel. I hear just 2 weeks ago that the office of the Israeli Prime Minister start talking about the issue of the tribe. And they are trying to contact the Egyptian to help them to give a kind of protection to those tribes. Because if those tribes will accept the job, they will be under the threats of the Hamas and the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. So the Egyptians are the one who should have to give them protection and support. I hope that this will work, and I hope that Gaza will be very soon free from the Hamas. If we want to move a little bit to the West Bank, the situation is very difficult, especially when it comes to the economic issue. As you might know, in the West Bank, we used to have over than 200,000 Palestinian workers used to enter to Israel every early morning to work and to come back. And those workers used to bring hundreds of millions of shekels every month. Now, since the October 7th, no one Palestinian worker is allowed to enter to Israel. And we can see how the right wing in the Israeli government right now calling to import workers from some Asian countries, like from India, from Thailand, from the Philippines. They don't want to see any Palestinian worker in Israel. And that probably will make a huge problem very soon. That probably will bring for an explosion of violence from the Palestinians in the West Bank towards Israel. People will never wait till they will starve. They will never wait. I think that the Israeli government is very aware about this issue. I think that the Americans also trying to push towards a kind of help to the Palestinians in the West Bank by allowing some of those workers probably to get back to their work in Israel. When I am meeting people in the West Bank, they said almost 4 months we are sitting at home. Probably we can wait for another 1 or 2 months. And then what will happen? I don't believe that within 2 months the war in Gaza will be ended. At least right now, we have to give it for 6 months. And then we will evaluate what's really going on. So imagine if that war will continue for another 6 months, what will happen in the West Bank? The Palestinian Authority is completely handicapped. They couldn't provide any kind of help to their people. And Israel the only one who can really help and provide the economic prosperity. Now my last message is to those who call themselves pro-Palestinians. I used to call them thugs and gangsters. Those people causing a huge damage to the reputation of the Palestinians. Those people, main job is how to add oil to the flame. These people are agents for their funders. On the October 7th, I saw a big demonstration in Stockholm, in Sweden. Unbelievable. From those thugs and gangsters celebrating the massacre of the October 7th, considering it as a Palestinian victory. I gave one interview to the Swedish TV on that day, and I said, if the Jewish massacre will be considered as a Palestinian victory in the 21st century, this is the end of humanity. I think that those people should have to face a kind of legislations to limit their activities. This is not freedom of speech. This is violence. This is hatred. I can see them on the campuses, mainly in the United States. It's unbelievable. I was invited to an event in one of the universities in California, and the students were afraid to come to their campus because some tens of thugs and gangsters demonstrating on the campus. Imagine the students afraid to enter to their campus. That will never happen in any Arab country, by the way. Because in the Arab countries, those people will be in jail forever. This is how we should have to deal with them. In the meantime, the administrations of the universities should have to take measures also. Must have to take actions against these people. Because these people are going to be the future terrorists in the world. The future terrorists in the world. So what I recommend to the students in the United States, that you must have to go and to demonstrate on the Capitol Hill 24 hours a day, calling the legislators and the congressmen to take measures, to start legislating laws to impose some limits on those people. Otherwise, I think that the United States, all the United States, is going later to suffer from these people. These people shouldn't have to be free. These people should have to pay the price one day for the hatred and the violence and the lies that they are spreading around the world. In Europe, it is more disaster. More disaster. But I think that countries should have to start taking measures. So probably I will stop right now and give you some time for Q&A. Thank you so much.
So, if you have a question, maybe raise your hand and I can come to you with the microphone and can get this going. Yeah, you want to start?
Bassem, thank you very much.
Thank you.
What led you to this life of truth?
See, I'm a person who grown up in a refugee camp for 33 years, from 1966 till 1999. Secondly, I spent over than 28 years of my life defending the rights of the Palestinians. I started defending those rights under the Israelis, and later on start defending those rights under the Palestinian Authority. You know, to create a human rights organization under a dictatorship regime, it's like to commit a suicide. 4 months after I founded an organization to deal with the Palestinian Authority violations, I was arrested by Yasser Arafat. That happened in 1996. And I was so lucky that I kept in jail only for 25 hours, because the only one who succeeded to release me in that time was the former US Secretary, Warren Christopher, under Bill Clinton administration. He is the one who picked up the telephone to Arafat, telling Arafat, you have 5 minutes to release Bassem Eid. That detention by Arafat gave me a huge impunity from the Palestinian Authority. Since 2002 until today, I am living in Jericho in the West Bank, which is completely under the jurisdiction of the Palestinian Authority. Now, I am looking around and I am seeing that since 1948 until today, the disasters which is happening to the Palestinians came from the Arabs, not from Israel. I visited all the refugee camps in Lebanon, in Syria, and in Jordan. You couldn't believe which situation those refugees are living under. The refugee camps in the West Bank and in Gaza, you can consider them as towers towards the refugee camps in Lebanon and mainly in Syria. A Palestinian refugee who wants to go to a hospital out of the camp need a permission from the government. That's never happened in Israel. Palestinian refugees in the camp are not allowed to move to outside the camp or to live outside the camp or to buy a piece of land or to buy a house. Why? Because you are guests here. We are waiting for the right of return. If you will become a permanent resident, then we couldn't call for the right of return. We must have to continue keeping you on the status of the temporary. This is what the Arab leaders told us. I remember in 1948, when the Arab leaders opened their borders to the Palestinian refugees, what they told them? They told them it's going to be a short-term suffer, a long-term benefit. In 48, listen, 76 years ago, we didn't see here any benefit. It's not a short-term suffer, it's a long-term suffer and no benefit. So when I start, thinking what is surrounding me, I came from a very poor family. We are 9 brothers and 1 sister. I remember my life under the Jordanians since I born till 1967. It was miserable. After 67, I think in the 1972, my father found a job where in Hadassah Hospital. And then he started getting a respected salary. We used to have no fridge, no electricity, no toilet. We used to go to a public toilet. No water in the house. And only after 72, things start improving. You couldn't believe what we did, the Ninth Brothers, when our father bought a TV. Black and white, by the way. You couldn't believe it. So, such kind of life, the only reason for that is the Arabs and the Arab leaders. I think that the Palestinians, probably 3 months ago, I went to visit some friends in one of the refugee camps in Ramallah. And when I met one of them, I asked him, Muhammad, how are you? Then Muhammad said, listen, Bassem, when I am waking up in the morning, I am thanking God twice. The first one, that he created me Muslim. But the second one, that he gave me the opportunity to live under the Israeli authority. So some people thanking God for that. Because we can see the Palestinian workers who are working under the Palestinian Authority, the average salary, monthly salary, under the Palestinian Authority is $500. But the average salary under the Israelis is $2,000. That's a huge difference. This is the dignity. I used to call it dignity. And I used to say that the majority of the Palestinians these days are people who are seeking dignity rather than identity. I used to say to my Palestinian colleagues that homeland is not the place where you're born. Homeland is the place where you can find dignity, justice, and freedoms. This is the real homeland. Gaza is not a homeland. West Bank is not a homeland. So this is what the people should have to start fighting for. How to achieve dignity, justice, and freedoms. And that's exactly what I am doing. Yes, please.
First of all, it's an honor to hear you live.
Thank you.
On YouTube.
Thank you.
So, Bassem, you were talking about what's happening in the United States, the reality of those terrorist supporters and the protests that happen on a daily basis. In fact, we have it daily since October 7th here in our city, in our country as well, in Canada. And we're facing sad reality after coming to Canada from Israel in order to avoid that hate.
Right.
And now we're facing it here.
Mm-hmm.
What would you suggest us as a community to do in order to, not to fight, but to gain more support of our leaders as they're silent publicly? They might support us when we speak with them face to face, but we don't see it, unfortunately, anywhere in outside. There is no public statements. We faced a few attacks. We went to police here. We met the premier, chief of police. Unfortunately, the answers we got, we support you, we understand, but as you said, freedom of speech, no, how to say it, we got the feeling.
Yeah, I think that I got the question.
Safety. And
Yeah,
what can we do?
I,
Open the eyes.
unfortunately, you couldn't do that much, unfortunately. Because the one who should have to do is the government, not you are. And while the government, unfortunately, leaving these people free, giving them a free hand to act as they are acting, I know that they are start threatening people. I know that they send messages to shoot and to kill people.
They're being given license
Yeah.
every week by our legislature
Right,
here
right.
to keep protesting 12 times in the last.
I think that this issue is an issue which is related to the legislations, which is related to the administration, and much more than it is related to the individual. I agree with you. It's a very tough life.
I'm worried to put Israeli flag outside of my house.
Yeah, yeah. This is this. I think that this is the problem is only the government here, in my opinion, not the individuals. Unfortunately, the individuals try to do the maximum, but you are facing is so aggressive people, is so rude people. I know them, yeah. I talk to them also, and they are demonstrating against me, yeah. But I think that the only one is just the legislators. So if you can put pressure on the legislators themselves to go and to demonstrate at the parliament over there, calling for protection, call them to protect you as individual, I think probably that will work. I really hope so. Yeah.
Like everyone was saying, thank you for your time here today. And I wanted to ask you, I agree 100% that, I agree with my friend, it is very frustrating to see all these protests and rallies and seminars that have no regard whatsoever for the truth. And their right to spread all this propaganda and misinformation is protected under the guise of freedom of speech, freedom of different opinions. And I agree with you that change has to come at the legislative level. But the problem, it seems to me, is that not all, but many legislators, politicians, are playing a numbers game. They want to please the greatest number of people, and unfortunately, we are not a very large number of people. The population of Jews in the whole world is smaller than the population of some neighborhoods in some cities in the world.
Yeah.
So it has become a numbers game, and the numbers are sadly, currently at least, not in our favor.
Yeah.
What do we do about that?
I don't know what to suggest to you to make your community much bigger. maybe to convince people to convert it to Judaism.
You know what? They're working on that.
Maybe to go to Pakistan to tell people to convert to Judaism, yeah? I wish that I can help on that. But as I said, yes, you are right. And I think that those people trying, to use the weakness of the minority. The weakness of the minority. Unfortunately, this is what's going on right now, let's say in the United States, in Canada, also in Europe. And no doubt that they are not only Muslims. Unfortunately, there is a lot of Christians also. Yeah, people who lost their minds. Yeah, Christians who lost their minds, who are joining them. So this is very sad situation, but I really hope that things probably will improve during the time being. Yes, sir.
Assalamu alaikum.
Ahlan wa sahlan, Rabbi Jeremy.
Shukran, Bassem, for what you have to say.
Thank you.
Joshua, perhaps I'm very reluctant to do mass conversions.
Let's just go to one a month from one a year, like we do.
No pressure. You made a very interesting point. If we can, I can go back to your point about a suggestion later. The suggestion being that we should be paying more attention to the leaders within the tribes. In fact, I remember listening to an interview of
Mordechai Kedar.
spoke about the Palestinian Emirates plan, where in fact that's what would be proposed. He's the only one other than yourself that I've heard speak of that plan. So I have, first of all, two questions. First of all, how possible, how real, because it makes perfect sense to me that that could work. So how real is it that we could bring that into a real situation? And my second question is, because that's the other side of this, I hear what you're saying about Hamas's hold on the people and what they do, but then the question is it not possible for the people to do something about that? The numbers, there's maybe 30,000, not as many anymore, but 30,000. There were 30,000 Hamas combatants. There are 2.5 million people living in Gaza. Maybe it's an impossible question, maybe it's a misunderstanding, but what can those people do if they really want to be free from Hamas and actually do something about a better way of life?
Thank you. Towards the tribes issue, by the way, I know Mordechai Kedar very well. I think that the first measure is how we can prepare the climate for those tribes to interfere. And when I am talking about preparing the climate, who is going to protect these people and who is going to give support to these people? No doubt that these people need a protection and support from countries, not from individuals. Because as tribes, they have their support from their own people, no doubt about it. But as a protection, I think that this is something that some countries probably should have to deal with. As an example, Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. Because these people based on tribes, those people based on tribes, they have a very good experience with the tribes. What I know, that since a month ago, President Abbas in Ramallah received a message from the Saudis and the Emiratis. And the message was, enough is enough. Go home. Go home. I think that the Arab leaders almost very frustrated from Abbas. Because what Abbas is doing, he's just eating, sleeping, drinking, and that's all. He's completely handicapped. He couldn't think. You know, a few years ago, Abbas went to Germany to visit the former Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel. You know what Angela Merkel told Abbas? She told him that since you was elected, I was elected 5 times in Germany. 18 years, Abbas already president. 18 years. In 18 years, other leaders has been elected 5 times. But this guy, in my opinion, has no feeling. He has no feeling. I believe if elections will take place tomorrow in the West Bank, I'm quite sure that Abbas will be elected only by his 2 sons and his wife. People are not interested to see this man again. Everybody is so fed up. Everybody is so frustrated from him and from the corruption of his sons. So it is a kind of protection. It's a kind of support. The other question was? About the people, how people can. You know, I am personally blaming the people in Gaza. And I am asking myself how it could be that these people continue under the Hamas regime for 18 years. How it could be. How it could be without taking any measures. People knows about the misery, the poverty, the destruction. And nobody is taking action here. Now I can understand that people are very scared. Hamas is a terrorist organization. I remember 3 years ago, 100 people made a small demonstration against the shortage of the electricity. The shortage of the electricity in Gaza. What Hamas did? Hamas came to the square where they are demonstrating by saying, if you will appear here tomorrow, we are going to kill you. And then, till today, I didn't hear about those 100 and the electricity over there. In that time, there was a shortage of electricity. Today, no electricity at all. At all. And nobody opening his mouth. People are very scared. These people can kill someone without, thinking about it. And I don't think that people want to sacrifice themselves here for a terrorist organization. So probably this is one of the reasons why people are really afraid to take any measures against such barbaric organization called the Hamas. Yes, please.
Hi, I just have one question. So, what should students do on campus when there's not a lot of Jewish students and a lot of hate and pressure? In addition to that, we had a recent protest in the uni where the Palestinians gathered to protest inside of the uni, which made most of us Israelis miss school just to escape them in the horror environment of that.
See, I talk a lot about that. And I don't have anything, any additional thing to tell you. I think that the major problem here is the legislation, and the major problem is the university administrations who are not trying to take measures against those people. And while the universities are not taking measures, I believe that these people will act more and more aggressive towards their colleagues, the Jewish people, and things probably might be much more difficult than what we notice today and what we are seeing today. So this is what I said, that the students should have to start demonstrating in front of the legislators to ask them, for a kind of protection and a kind of support. Otherwise, things will be very, very complicated. Yes, please.
Thank you so much for coming here tonight to help us learn more about the situation. And I believe with my whole heart that if the Palestinians reached out to the Israelis and said, help us, that Israel would help them. What's your thoughts? Because you see, the Biden administration, even Trudeau here in Canada and much around the world, they keep pressuring Israel to this idea of a two-state solution. And we know that the Arabs and the Palestinians have been offered that several times. and it's been rejected each time. What is your understanding of the Palestinians and their acceptance of a two-state solution? Are they interested having a Jewish state and a Palestinian state living side by side in peace, or is it really that mantra from the river to the sea where there is no river?
Yeah. When it comes to the river and the sea, I must have to tell you that the sea and the river almost dry. So it couldn't be, used as a border. Secondly, I used to say all the time, Israel is not the enemy of the Arabs, and Israel is not the enemy of the Muslims. The opposite. Israel only can benefit those Arabs and those Muslims. And I think that the Abraham's Accord is one proof, because the United Arab Emirates and the Kingdom of Bahrain are much more rich than Israel, much more rich. But what they are seeking from Israel, two things: technology and security. And Israel is the one who can provide, no doubt about it. So I think that most of the Muslim leaders start realizing now that Israel is not the enemy. I have to tell you that in Israel sometimes I am meeting with delegations, political delegations from Pakistan, as an example. Pakistan don't have any kind of diplomatic relation with Israel. But these people, coming, and I believe that they are coming for a mission, not just, to say hi to Israel. For a mission. I met delegation from Indonesia. This is something, very strange sometimes. But looks like that Israel has its own secret, let's call it, relationship with some Muslim countries. With some Muslim countries. Now, towards the two-state solution, I think that the only one who is calling for two-state solution is only Europe and President Biden. But President Biden, in the meantime, don't know that the Palestinian leadership is totally against the two-state solution. The Palestinian leadership is in favor for three-state solution for two people. The Hamas trying to defend their own Islamic emirate in Gaza. Abbas is defending his own empire in the West Bank, and the State of Israel. This is how we are living since the Israeli withdrawal from Gaza in 2005. And looks like everyone is so satisfied with his own. Abbas don't want to make any unity with the Hamas. Abbas don't want to make any linkage between the West Bank and Gaza, because he considered the West Bank as his own state. And he is very happy with that. He is very happy with that. I think those who are calling for the two-state solution, they didn't understand that the Palestinians are not ripe enough for a state. We are not ripe. I think that the plan of Ariel Sharon, when Ariel Sharon decided to withdraw from Gaza, they came to him and they said, "How you are doing that?" He said, "Listen, everyone around the world calling for a Palestinian state. Let us make a peace initiative by giving Gaza to the Palestinians. Let them build a state there." This is what Ariel Sharon said. And we remember the Palestinian leaders start running from one TV channel to another TV channel by saying, if Israel will withdraw from Gaza, we are going to make Gaza Singapore. I wasn't in Singapore, But I'm wondering if the situation in Singapore similar to Gaza these days. Now, what's happened? In my opinion, we, the Palestinians, almost destroyed what remains from the Israelis in Gaza. We destroyed. Where is the Singapore? It used to be Singapore, but the Hamas decided to turn it into ISIS. And sometimes when they are trying to compare between ISIS and Hamas, I used to say that probably ISIS more rational. Yeah. Last question, please.
Hi, Bassem. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
I have a two-part question, and I think I got a little bit of clarity from your response to Rabbi Jeremy's, but I wanted to ask it again. Being as though you're Palestinian, born and raised, living in Jericho, and obviously have a lot of Palestinian connections and friends and family, do the Palestinians do they blame Israel or do they blame Hamas when you talk to them, just in general, people that you talk to? Do they blame Israel for their retaliation efforts, or do they blame Hamas for the suppression and terror that they brought to their people?
Yeah, yeah.
And then the second part is, what do you say to people who believe and say that Israel is committing genocide, that Israel is killing innocent civilian Palestinians, and that Israel is ethnic cleansing the Palestinian people?
Okay, thank you. Towards the first question, I think that the Palestinians between themselves, yeah, almost realized that their suffer is coming from their leaders.
Take more questions or no, but if yes, I'll come to you.
Now, when I am coming to talk with people, people are very openly telling me what they are thinking and what they are feeling. If you will come and talk to them, then the language is totally different. Totally different. Unfortunately, we have our own internal language and the external language. This is what Abbas using, by the way. When he come to the UN, he said, my shoulder for peace to Israel. But in Ramallah, he is paying, pay to slay, yeah? If you kill a Jew, you will get a monthly salary. This is what he's doing in Ramallah. But in the United Nations, he said, my shoulder for peace to the Israelis, yeah? This is Abbas. So unfortunately, this is something that we are using the two languages. But people, when I am talking with people, no doubt that most the blame is on the Hamas and on the Palestinian Authority. No doubt about it. They don't need, to convince me. I know much better than they are. But sometimes I have to check the feeling of the people. This is why I'm visiting, I'm going, I'm moving, going to refugee camps, going to towns, going to cities, to meet with people, to get the impression on what is really going on. Now, towards the second question was, the second question? The genocide. See, these words became a kind of a political slogans, no more and no less. Even if there is no genocide, people will continue accusing Israel in a genocide. Even if there is no apartheid, those people will continue blaming Israel on apartheid. Now, what does it mean genocide? And what does it mean apartheid? I was in South Africa 4 times. And I visited the apartheid museum for 3 times. 3 times I was there. I have friends in Jerusalem, born in South Africa. I have other authors from South Africa living in Jerusalem and wrote a lot of books about the apartheid. I think that the situation between Israel and South Africa is completely different. Because we know the apartheid in South Africa, black people not allowed to be on the bus with white people. This is not happening in Israel. I saw Palestinian covered face and the head sitting with Haredi in the light train. We have a Palestinian Israeli Arab judge in the Supreme Court. Moshe Katsav, the former president of Israel, when he sentenced to jail, he was sentenced to jail by an Israeli Arab lawyer in the Supreme Court. The president of Israel. This is apartheid. Go and look to the biggest departments in the hospitals, headed by an Israeli Arab. These days in Ben Gurion Airport, the security people who are searching you over there, half of them are Israeli Arab. Half of them. So to come and to say, to accuse, you can accuse, yeah. But when you ask for facts, there is no facts. Now, unfortunately, what is going on in Gaza is very sad. It's very sad. But in the meantime, Hamas should have to put an end to hide themselves behind the civilians. Israel wants to kill the Hamas. It's very clear. Why you are hiding yourself behind the civilians or under the houses of the civilians? Why? I think that on each civilian will be killed in Gaza, Hamas should have to be blamed on that. And when Israel asking people to flee and the Hamas sending their police, pushing people back to their homes, this is unfortunately the circumstances. These are the consequences. So I hope that the international community will open their eyes a little bit more and to see how the Hamas really became so aggressive towards his own people. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Yaniv. Yaniv, thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Bassem, for including us in your trip, in your tour, for being here with us tonight. Just before we wrap up, I just want to acknowledge a few people who help this evening happen. Rob and Barb, our friends from Friends of Israel. Thank you so much for your contribution for this evening. We received generous donations from the Linda Froome Foundation and from Carmen Loras, so thank you for that. And one person who worked tirelessly to make this evening happen, really day and night, to make sure that this is a successful event, our Program and Education Director at Bet Jacob Synagogue, Sapir. Thank you. And of course, all of you for being here tonight, for coming out to listen to the important message that Bassem here has to share with all of us. I invite you to stay here with us. There's coffee and tea. You're welcome to hang out and schmooze, and have a great evening. Thank you very much.